What's up, gamers? We're blasting today. We're going to start by talking about the custom blaster, and then we will work into the SBLAST in comparison to this weapon, because they are pretty comparable weapons. There are a lot of things that they do that are similar, and being able to talk about their differences will speed things up when talking about how to play each one. So, to start with, I don't tend to talk a lot about gear builds, but I've tried my best to kind of mimic what I've been seeing on sendu.inc/builds. They're generally running comeback, which is common for a lot of aggressive weapons right now. If your weapon is going to be going down a lot, it's just a lot of value that you're getting for every time you go down. And blasters do tend to go down a lot because they tend to get their feet stuck. They can't paint their way out of dangerous situations as easily. A lot of the time, they're just going to dive in and go for picks. They're fighting weapons, so it's a really good fit for them, and you kind of just always want to be considering it. And then they also run generally 1.2 or 1.3 of quick respawn, which, again, same reason. If you're going down a lot, that's a pretty good build to go. Everything else is relatively minor. Obviously, you're going to be running stealth jump if you're an aggressive weapon and you're going down a lot. Same reasons. And then after that, it's like you want your utility subs, probably want a little bit of swim speed or something. And then if you're... so this is a non-standard build. This is not what people are generally running right now. But I have generally liked to run Intensify Action if I'm going for jump shots a lot. Something about blasters is that when you jump, look at my reticle, look at those four corners. They're just instantly bad. Blaster aim RNG in the air is some of the worst that you'll see. You see how those two shots hit completely different places? That's what blasters are like. So you can mitigate that to a significant degree by running something like a main or two. I've even gone as far as 2 mains of Intensify Action before. And it feels a lot better when you get it down to that. But that's not generally what people are itemizing for right now. They're preferring the I'm going to get splatted a lot playstyle, and so that's kind of how they're working with it. In terms of playstyle, this is going to be an aggressive weapon. You're going for picks. You do not paint very well with this thing. The paint is kind of slow, and it doesn't tessellate. It's pretty rough for trying to cover a whole area. And with each shot being as slow as it is, for all you know, you're going to fire a shot, and then by the time you're like a quarter of the way through the trail, your feet are already painted again because someone's trying to paint over you. It's not a great weapon for painting its way into a fight. It would much rather have the rest of its team paint for it so that it can get close to the enemy team and then just immediately be hitting these shots. One huge advantage of this weapon is the AoE blast radius, like with any blaster. I can be over here. I can hit this guy. What chance do they have of hitting me back? There are very few weapons that can do that. Blasters are some of the few weapons that actually kind of like low ground. Because unlike with straight line of sight weapons, they don't really care about the fact that this player can walk backwards and be behind cover faster than this player can move forwards and be behind cover. Because they don't care about the cover. They hit around it anyway. They'll take all the cover they can get from way underneath here and just hit you up over the top of it and be very minimally exposed to doing so. They're also great for checking corners, so I don't know if there's actually a really good dummy for showing this here. Well, I guess there was the one I've already shown. Like, if I don't know that someone's around the corner, like the blind corner here, I fire one shot there. If it hits someone, then I hear it, and if it doesn't hit someone, it's probably safe, and I can swim into that. Obviously, the flash is very, it's good at attracting your attention, so if you fire this shot and then swim around and then someone's waiting for you because they had a shot lined up as you were swimming around, okay, now you're still in some trouble, and you've got to be really careful. These shots are so flashy. Just like look at the effect that they create when they go off. It's a firework. And so this is really, really visible, and once you've fired a shot, you're a lot more committed, and this is another one of the reasons that blasters tend to just go down a lot when they're played aggressively like this. The rapids, they get away with it because they can hit you from so far away. Sure, you know where they are, but can you do anything about it? The question is more often no. So that's a little bit different. But with these things, once you're in, you'd better get the player down or you're going to have a bad time. Once you hit one indirect, it's really, really easy and often unavoidable that you get that second indirect and at least trade them. But it's really ideal to be hitting directs as often as possible because the difference between firing one blaster shot and firing two blaster shots is a lot of time. And the one shot is really all that's actually, like, not reactable. One difference between this weapon and the SBLAST is that with this, you're probably just not going to want to jump shot that much. Maybe if you need to move and you're super close because the deviation isn't going to matter too much, you still get the direct anyway. But trying to jump direct someone from max range, sometimes it'll work. You don't control when, though. So a lot of the time, better to just stick to the ground to hit those. The SBLAST, you can actually get away with jumping using basically the grounded shots, which have a smaller AoE radius, but they will be more likely to actually hit the target that you're aiming at. But if you don't really care as much about accuracy and you're okay with getting the two-shot, it can still be a good idea to jump shot, because with a weapon that's this short-ranged, the deviation doesn't make that big of a difference if all you care about is that whole big radius around it. If all you need to do is get an opponent inside that, then it doesn't matter if it deviates that much because you still have a big AoE radius. One thing that'll be true about any blaster is that the AoE radius only happens at the end of the shot. You can see the trail of ink here is way skinnier than the ink over here. That's because here is where it explodes, and this is the only place you get AoE. If anybody is this close to you, you're not hitting them unless you direct them with the shot. This is still true of the SBLAST, but we'll talk about why it's not as big of a deal when we get there. This is just kind of a fundamental weakness of most blasters, and it's something you've got to play around. You really want to be keeping people kind of at this max range so that even if you miss, the AoE is still going to clip them. And if someone gets on top of you, that's your most difficult aiming task, because now, if you don't hit that direct, you're just kind of not going to hit them at all. So I need to... I'm trying to miss there. You can see there, close shots, but because the player isn't in the AoE radius at the end of my range, I'm not getting any indirect damage. I would need to be back about here to be able to hit that. Speaking to the kit of the weapon, the point sensor is not too bad. It's a pretty nice combination with AoE weapons, like Explos get a lot out of it, for example, for the same reason that just because they're off your sight line doesn't mean you can't see them, and this is one of the class of weapons that's best at hitting players that they can't see, that they're off their sight line. So if that player is tagged, it's not the most difficult thing to line them up with your indirect radius and be able to confirm a splat that way. This also works really well in tandem with Trizooka. Now, Trizooka's generally got a nerf in that the main weapons that people were using that had them got points for special nerfs. Not true about the Neo Machine, but true about the Shot and the Squeezer, which are probably the two most common. And so, while, you know, those are still going to be powerful, they did get a little bit of a nerf. Still, if you're trying to run one of these kinds of blasters and you've got, like, a double shot comp or something, this is a fantastic thing to be able to throw out there, because now as soon as someone has Zuka, it's way easier for them to land those shots. The splashdown is kind of a hit or miss thing. you generally want to play pretty safely with it because unlike in Splatoon 2, this is a special that you can often survive using. The main way that you do that is you don't try to hit people with the radius that's around you. You try to hit people with the fists that are out a little bit further in front. So from here, the radius around me isn't going to hit that target out in front, but the fists will. That keeps me a little bit further away. Some other ways to do this include using it around cover so that you are protected by the cover when you land, but the player who you're targeting with it will still get hit around the cover. And using high ground also keeps you significantly safer against shorter ranged weapons, because while a splatter shot may be able to splat you if you use it from right here, it's going to be a lot harder for them to do that if you use it from up here. And by harder, I mean impossible. They do not shoot up that high. So, obviously, you still have to worry about things like E-liters hitting you out of the sky. That will just always be a problem on the splashdowns. You kind of just have to use them in places that those weapons can't see. Even something as short-ranged as, like, dually squelchers is just always going to be scary to use splashdown around. So, there are definitely some weapons that you don't want to risk using that around. But in the kinds of short-range frontline engagements that you're likely to get into, there are definitely some ways that you can use it that will give you an advantage, or at least force someone to disengage from you, if not trap them entirely. So, let's get in and do some tower control, which is a perfect map mode for blasters. One of the big advantages of the AoE here is that it lets you hit around the tower pole. The tower pole is not especially effective cover against someone who's using a blaster. So that's one of the big niches that blasters have in this game, that they're just always going to be really good on tower control because they are one of the best weapons in the game, specifically at clearing someone off the objective. Double blaster, there you go. Just always seems to happen on tower control that all the blasters come out. Okay, so they have cooler. So ideally what we want to be doing is getting rid of their headits as often as possible before they're able to get that cooler. Yeah, wiping their team is a pretty good start, I'd say. So this is really, really good right here for clearing this area and keeping people safe from the tower. You can see I can aggress the top side over there because the fists will go up in front of me. So I don't have to be up there to attack that spot with the splashdown. I'm out of ink at this point. I'm just stalling as long as I can so my team can get the tower as far as they can before those two players get on top of them. Didn't quite make the difference at the checkpoint, unfortunately, but it did get us a few extra points. So, you're going to like, again, getting right up against cover, getting into their low ground. Because from here you can hit up over the top. If they're going to chase me, that's fine. I'll use the splashdown to scare them away. And also split them from their teammate. Oh, that was not who I thought I was going to hit with that. You can see there, I'm able to kind of hit around the Brella. Blasters have long been a counter to Brellas, because the Brella is, of course, going to block shots, but the blaster's shots go around things. So, they're the least blockable shots in the game. You can just kind of put them sideways to the Brella, and you've got the Brella splatted in 2 shots, and they're not even protecting themselves. So, that was a pretty successful game, and that is one of the map modes that I would say this weapon probably performs better than most. The ability to shark under those ledges at first checkpoint, really strong. Also going to be really strong in the freezer area of the enemy side for hitting up over those ledges. So, just generally good for tower pushing, and then on defense, of course, there's the utility that you can clear the tower really well with this thing. So, good stuff there. So, let's talk about the 91. Very similar loadouts on this weapon, but you're way less likely to see Intensify Action getting used on this, for the reason that, if you'll notice, That was a jump shot, but on my reticle, the accuracy did not go down. That's because what I'm doing is I'm firing and then jumping. So I'm getting grounded accuracy as the shot starts up, but it's still letting me move through the air as the shot comes out. So this is going to be 100% accurate full range jump shots. Now the trade-off for this obvious massive advantage is that your AoE radius is way smaller. You can see that shot missed when any other blaster in the game hits that shot. So this is really something that you're not even really going to be trying to hit indirects on. This is just, like, you might get them occasionally if you whiff, but more often than not, you're just aiming for directs if you're going for these jump shots. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to go for. Unlike the other blasters, there's way less startup. So you can see I've got a lot of like regular blaster muscle memory, not just from having played it just now, but from having 4-starred the weapon. And I have to lead my shots a little bit less than I'm expecting to be able to hit these. The shot velocity is just faster. So it reaches the target faster, and I don't have to aim as far away from them. I don't have to predict their movement as much to be able to hit them. So that's one really specialized but pretty powerful tool if you're just trying to hit these precision directs to be able to keep moving, but also one-shot the target. But then the other option, if you want to play less precise, is the normal jump shots. You can see here, since I'm not firing the shot while grounded, the aim is spreading way out. And you can also see a change in the reticle, which indicates that I now have a massive AoE blast radius. This is tremendously large. I believe if the RNG plays nice, I can hit both of these targets with this shot. Just so much room for error. You will notice the range is significantly lower. This is something you have to hit from much closer up. Very comparable to the way a Luna Blaster shot works. That's probably the best point of comparison for it. So this is the kind of shot you're trying to go for if you're trying to hit around this corner, if you're trying to shark under ledges. These shots are really reliable and very difficult to avoid in that situation. So you can either go super precise or super imprecise with this weapon. A lot of versatility there. On top of that, if you need a little more range or you need something to like combo with a shot that maybe got indirect damage, the burst bomb is there, and it can do... the 35 generally isn't going to get you very much because your indirect is probably going to do less than that. I think the indirect can do... Yeah, the indirect can do enough to combo with it, so maybe this helps. But you can see there, it's not super reliable. You don't want to be counting on a 35 being able to splat from that. It might not get them there. So you're going to want to aim for your directs more often than not on the burst bomb, but sometimes, you know, it can... the stars can align and you can hit two relatively imprecise shots. As any Carbon Deco player will tell you, the burst bomb is going to be a faster combo if you are trying to get specifically combo damage off because of how little end lag there is on the end of a burst bomb throw. So if you are expecting that you're going to be hitting indirect damage, you don't think you get the direct, you could go for that. It's a little bit tricky because a lot of the time you're hoping for the direct, and you also lose the element of surprise after your first shot, so you'd probably rather just go for the direct right away if you think you've got the ability to aim that precisely. But it can be good if someone like gets out of your range and you just need that little extra chip to finish them off, so you can use it that way. This can also, you know, combo with other aspects of your team comp. If you're trying to build a chip comp, you can run this with your stampers, with your splashes, with your snipe riders, and it fits in pretty well to try and just chip people down and not have to super hard commit to everything. Sometimes you can stay a little further away. This is still a very high commitment blaster. We are still running the quick respawn, the comeback that we were running on the previous blaster. But for reasons we've now talked about, you're not going to be running the intensify action because you've still got your perfect accuracy jump shots here. And if you're jumping with this, you don't really care that much about hitting the direct. And if you're that close, you can probably hit the direct anyway. So it's way, way, way less valuable to have the intensify action on specifically this weapon compared to other blasters. And even on other blasters, we're not seeing it get used a lot. The Booyah Bomb is a really, really nice aspect of the kit. It's one of the things that makes this much preferable to the other kits. Not that the Sprinkler was any better, but Booyah Bomb is really good for a weapon that's high commitment, but is going in to try and get picks. Very similar to the way that a sloshing machine will try and use it. It's a term that FLC calls continuation. I believe I've talked about it before in videos, and FLC has a video of his own talking about it. But the general idea here is you get a pick, and at a high level, you expect that when you splat someone, their teammates know about it and they're rushing to try and trade you back so that the numbers advantage stays the same instead of you getting away clean with it. So what a Booyah Bomb lets you do is you get a pick and then you immediately pop the Booyah, and now they can't trade you back, and also they're threatened. So now you throw this down, they have to back even further up than they were before. They were going to have to before. Maybe they get split up and your teammates can get another pick, but they have to back up even more. You get a pick, and then instead of potentially just losing all of the ground that you gained by being traded back, you gain even more space, and your team can really accelerate their push off the back of just that one solo play you made. So that's a really valuable aspect of that, and hopefully we'll be able to show that off here. This weapon is often used in conjunction with the range blaster. Similar ranges, similar roles, just different equipment to do them with. So that would be another weapon to consider if this is something that you're into. Very weird team comps here. Lots of long range here. Lots of AoE. Not a ton of paint on our side. Except for that specifically X-Blow. We're attacking this player here because they were on top of our teammate, but unfortunately we get double teamed for that. I don't like getting on tower right there unless we're going to back up. Yeah, we end up just going down for that. We didn't have an advantage, so they were eventually going to be able to just get us. I'm going to throw that because it's more range than anything else we've got. We're going to draw aggro here by being here, and I might have overstepped a little bit. If that opponent had kept coming at me, I'd be in trouble. I am surprised I didn't get as much help there. I thought we were going to have people forward in time. We've got our own Booyah Bomb down there. It's a nice direct on that player to clear this area. Oh, I hit them with the burst bomb and then just wasn't able to finish it, but teammates got it covered. After I missed that shot, I should probably just be popping Booyah Bomb to keep myself safe. I want to clear this before anyone jumps to it. There's another one down here that people have already used. Unfortunately, they had a Tri-Strike ready, and that is going to counter my Booyah Bomb there. It's just going to shred through the armor. So that was not something that kept me safe. Very easy shots right there, as you can see. I'm not aiming particularly carefully, and it's still getting value. Someone behind us. Let's just nuke this whole area. Thought I might catch someone with that. Throwing Booyah Bomb at the sides of walls makes it more difficult for the opponent to see where they've been thrown. The jumping threw their aim off enough there that I was able to survive it. something to consider is if you can reliably trade, might actually not get a lot out of the quick respawn. But there are enough situations where you tend not to expect to be able to trade, theoretically. That's generally what people will do. That is not a weapon that's going to be good at shredding the Booyah Bomb, but nobody went and got it afterward when it had to drop down. We probably get this? There we go, yeah. I just needed to make their one-shot miss. Alright, it's hard to push that H3 right now, but they're also not going to be able to push forward very well. This would be a good time to go for one of these. There we go. Okay, nice. Teammate clears from the other side. We should be able to get through this check. Unfortunately, we got surprised by the beacons there. That forces someone down, and we can just attack them around the corner like this. You can really take some, like, Clash Blaster positions with this thing, because of how big that AoE radius is. Unfortunately, we got pushed back in mid. We were busy dealing with this guy while I was up here. So I kind of ended up in a tough spot. I thought I saw someone over here still. Maybe not. Okay, good snap from my teammate, if not from me. Did I die to the splash wall? I died to the splash wall. That's silly. So we did just enough to get there. That was a really weird team comp that didn't offer me a lot in the way of frontline support, but we were able to kind of power through and get the very small lead that we needed. I'm a lot less adept with the long-range one-shots on this weapon. They're just a little bit more precise, and I tend to prefer to play a lot around the jump shots because those are really consistent. But as you can see, there were a couple of times where it was probably the better idea to go for these precision shots. And if you get really good at hitting these, and you can really count on yourself to land them, obviously these are going to be really deadly. Not the best player to show that off, but hopefully you kind of have a little bit more of an understanding now of how you would go about playing with those, and you can see what I was able to do with the rest of the kit. Hope that was helpful, and we'll see you next time for probably a video on the chargers, but we will see.